Good morning, and welcome to day 28 of F260 at First Baptist Meridian. Today we look at Exodus chapters 2 and 3, where we look at the birth and rise of Moses and the burning bush incident. There's an old quote from Pastor Dwight L. Moody that said Moses spent the first 40 years of his life thinking he was a somebody, the next 40 years of his life learning that he was a nobody, and the final 40 years of his life discovering what God can do with a nobody. And that fits. I like it on two levels. Number one, Moses is this great leader, one of the greatest leaders of God's people in all of Scripture. But it's important to notice that all of that leadership happens in the last 40 years of his life. There's a large period of Moses' life where if you looked at it, you'd wonder what in the world is God going to do with it. At the end of the first 40 years, he's a murderer. In the next 40 years, he's in the wilderness just shepherding a flock. Don't exactly look like big plans. And that's where I want us to pay attention to the other important aspect of that quote. Always pay attention in the Bible when time slows down. We looked at this in Genesis. We went from eternity past, creation, to about 2100 BC in just 11 chapters, and spent the rest of Genesis, chapters 12 through 50, on just 4 generations of God's covenant people. Well, check out Exodus. Exodus 1 through 3 will jam-pack 80 years, only for the rest of Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy to encapsulate the last 40 years of Moses' life. So anytime time slows down and details go up, pay close attention. And so Moses is born to a Hebrew family, a Levitical family, and he's nursed in secret till about 3 months, at which time, to save his life, his mother floats him down the Nile in this mini ark-like structure reminiscent of the days of Noah. And as he's floating down the Nile, he's spotted by Pharaoh's daughter, who sends one of his slaves to draw him out, hence the name Moses. Moshe means drawn. And then Moses, ironically, is sent back to his own mother to nurse him as a baby. He's then raised in Pharaoh's court, so he's raised not as a Hebrew, but as an Egyptian, until one day in adulthood he sees an Egyptian beating on a Hebrew slave and strikes down the Egyptian. When this becomes public knowledge and Pharaoh seeks his life, Moses flees to the wilderness for phase 2 of his life, where he becomes a shepherd. He marries the daughter of a man alternately referred to as Jethro or Ruel. His wife's name is Zipporah, and his first son with her's name is Gershom, which sounds like the Hebrew Gershom, stranger there. Moses is residing not as one of his own people, but as a foreigner in a strange place, a refuge, a fugitive of sorts. And so Moses probably thinks that his life is functionally spoken for. There's nothing that can happen to redeem or to be used in any big way. And that's where the importance of the burning bush comes in chapter 3. At the end of chapter 2, we read that the Pharaoh who was alive when Moses had killed the Egyptian dies, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery, and they cried out for help to God. And it says their cry for rescue or deliverance or salvation from slavery came up to God. And then it says God heard their groaning, and then he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and he knew. So everything in Exodus is going to be situated in what we've been looking at in Genesis. It is precisely out of fulfillment to that Abrahamic promise that God is going to deliver his people out of Egypt and take them back to the land he had promised their forefathers. And so in Exodus chapter 3, when Moses is tending his father-in-law's flocks on God's mountain, alternately referred to as Horeb and Sinai, God appears to Moses from this burning bush and tells him to go back to the kingdom that he fled for his life, and appear to Pharaoh and to tell him to let God's people go. And you have this very extended exchange between Moses and God Moses saying, I'm a fugitive. Who's going to listen to me? Who do I tell them sent me? And God says, tell them I am sent you. Ehya, Asher, Ehya. I am who I am. I will be who I have been. I have been who I will be. It's the statement of continuity and being. Some people loosely translate it the eternal. God is unchanging and he's always there. He says, tell them that I am sent you, the God of their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so this is going to set the course for the last 40 years of Moses's life. So in the days ahead, we will see how the Exodus plays out, because Moses is about to go before one of the most powerful men on earth and let him know that there's an even more powerful God. We'll see how it plays out in days ahead. In the meantime, keep reading, reflecting, and responding, and God bless you as you do so. See you tomorrow.